So just going back to the theme that we were talking a little bit with Greg Sargent in the interview today, the notion, all right, and the notion that somehow that in just criticizing Donald Trump, in just criticizing, not even criticizing his policies, but criticizing him, the person, saying he's rude, essentially, like he's rude and uncouth, is in any way constitutes being a maverick. Like, the word itself is just sort of almost nauseating, just because it was so associated with John McCain. But Mitt Romney comes out with an op-ed and says, nearly says, I am in lockstep with you on policy. In fact, when it comes to immigration, I want to remind you, during the campaign, I was actually to the right of you on immigration policy. But I'm in lockstep. I will vote with you 98% of the time, he says. But you're really rude and you have no respect for the office of the presidency. This guy, is Schmidt, right? Murphy, rather. Murphy. This guy gives away the game a little bit, Murphy here, because he says that Mitt Romney is putting down a marker. I'll tell you what he means by that.
Now, are some of us completely out of line to think, whoa, we've lost... The whole Republican Senate has lost Bob Corker. They've lost Jeff Flake. Lamar Alexander is now a lame duck, if you will, not running for re-election, but in the current...
Pause it. Now, you should know, if you're listening to this, there's a picture of departing Senate mavericks, Bob Corker and Jeff Flake. Now, Jeff Flake, I think there was 1 or 2 votes in the final 2 weeks of the last term of the Senate where he in any way did something that in any way implicated the outcome. I don't know that it ultimately made a choice, because I think in one instance Pence came in and provided the vote. But Bob Corker, to my mind, did 0 in terms of anything other than talk about Donald Trump. These people are not, they're not poets. They're not like, the reason why you listen to what they say is because it gives you an indication of what they might do. But after 2 years of them not doing anything, why do you continue to listen? And if Mitt Romney announces, here's what I'm going to do, exactly what Donald Trump wants me to do. However, I'm going to say mean things about him, it is useless. Useless.
Less than useless, because it provides cover and content for this kind of nonsense and
Ben
helps
Sass.
launder the Republican Party's brand, which should be all of fascism, white nationalism.
There's a lot of people whose civic engagement is going to be like, are we sure this what they're saying about the Republicans isn't true? Oh, well, look, we have guys like Jeff.
Right, we have these guys who are
these
polite.
are the departing Senate mavericks. Now, the new generation of mavericks is Mitt Romney, who has announced that I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to say things, and Ben Sass, who has been there the entire time doing nothing. Nothing. But continue.
Running for re-election, but in the current Senate, there are so few Republican critics willing to stand up. And here you have Mitt Romney, who agrees with the president on a lot of issues on domestic policy, but disagrees with his character, with his demeanor, with his approach, to public life in general. Is this the opening round of a potential 2020 run?
I don't think so. I publicly said I think Mitt Romney ought to be president, and I'd love to see him run. But that's not what this is about. This is about Mitt putting down a marker. I think what's interesting, though, is as somebody who's been brave enough in the past to call out the president on his misbehavior, and when, frankly, he acts against our national interest, Mitt sounds publicly like a lot of senators I've heard privately.
Yeah, okay. Well, the value of these private senators is probably more valuable than the public thing, because Romney's already announced he's not going to do anything different. But when Murphy says he's putting down a marker, what he's saying is Mitt Romney will not challenge the president in a primary. What he will do is pretend that he was challenging the president for these past 2 years, and in the event that the president's not there, he'll step in as the guy who was challenging the president. That's what he means by putting down a marker. I just want everyone to know that I was appearing to be on the right side of history. And
he disagrees very strongly with his demeanor.
His demeanor has been just really bad.
Your whole approach to public life, Donald.
But it's just off brand. But I think that that is it for these people, right? Like, this is all they just see it as like a series of kind of spectacles and affirmations of sort of like kind of almost like American civic religion. That's why they always have a like George W. Bush giving Michelle Obama candy at funerals is more important than even remembering what was in the Patriot Act.
Right.
Like, let alone debating the merits of like
this is such
the
a massive
opening of
failure
this
of the press.
massive new surveillance state. It's like,
Greg Sargent may have some optimism that the press has learned a lesson, but I am quite sure that the press reverts back in such so quickly to the default position. The moment that Donald Trump has left the office, I'm telling you, they're going to say that Mike Pence is some type of great statesman.
The most disturbing, maybe not the most disturbing, but an incredibly revealing pieces of content. I couldn't cite, I think of maybe one, Alex Wagner talking to David Axelrod would be an example of this. There was the period in between the inauguration, and you had, like, including people, I mean, obviously the never Trump Republicans who obviously were, they hadn't done the complete departure yet, but a lot of mainstream, probably Democratic pundits were doing like what I really hope is that when he gets into office, he'll just feel the gravity of it.
Right.
And he'll really change as a person. Like, in a ways that, like, not only were contradicted by everything Donald Trump has ever done, but also like defy the laws of almost like psychiatry, like to the extent there are. Like, it's just like, no, somebody in their 70s does not change all of their life habits when put in a highly stressful situation.
When I
It'll
walked into
probably
that room, I saw the desk, and then I knew I need to change.
I saw the
I need
generals
to be a better man than I've been.
and they looked better than Tom Cruise, and I realized I can't
so
say racist
hot.
shit anymore.
They were so hot.
They were so hot, and I can't assault beauty queens anymore, and I can't say bigoted things about Haitians or Mexicans because I'm the president of the United States. And then I downloaded Fresh Air on my iPhone, and I tweeted out that we should respect Ramadan.
Hello, this is Mitt Romney.
Which of course would be enough for these people. That's the thing. If Donald Trump celebrated Ramadan and was like, I like Fresh Air with Terry Gross, and every single thing else he did, with the exception maybe of some things with Putin, these people would be totally cool.
Who let the dogs out?
Oh my God.
But like, even
I
if-
hope he runs through. That all being said, I would love to see Mitt Romney run for president again.
Oh, he totally should.
He's enormously
For the country.
entertaining. For the country. Yeah, totally for the
Yeah, we
country.
could all use a little comic relief, but even if we are gonna think on Romney's level here, if anyone's a maverick in terms of demeanor within the Republican Party, it's still Trump. Like, sorry,
Right.
being transgressive, like I said before, isn't necessarily good, but he says the dog whistles out loud, and the rest of them do not.
I just don't think you should get credit for being a maverick when you're the only person who's acting like even just a remotely close to being a human being in a public, in the Republican Party. That's like one of those things, like, if you want to volunteer, step forward, and everyone else takes a step back.
Well, and it's like they're doing the media a bigger favor than they're doing the Republican Party.
It's
right.
bizarre.
Because they allowed the media to fill nonsense content and continue these fictions.